My grandmother had been dead for less than 48 hours, and somehow the house already felt robbed. Not robbed by strangers. Robbed by someone who knew exactly where everything valuable lived. I noticed it the second my mother stepped aside and let me inside. The air was wrong. That sounds crazy, I know. But grief changes the way you notice things. You start tracking absences. The missing perfume smell. The silence where a voice used to be. The empty spaces nobody else notices. Grandma Rose's hallway table was bare. Always, always. There had been a crystal bowl sitting there filled with wrapped peppermints. Gone. The framed black and white wedding photo of my grandparents? Gone. Even the old brass lamp by the staircase had disappeared. Small things. Tiny things, but enough to make the back of my neck tighten. Mom walked ahead of me carrying a clipboard. A clipboard. At her own mother's funeral house. Like this was some corporate inventory project. Family's coming by around noon, she said casually. We're organizing. Organizing. That word hit me funny. You mean cleaning? No, she answered. Handling things. Handling things. Every sentence out of her mouth sounded temporary and permanent at the same time. I set the casserole dish on the kitchen counter. The kitchen looked untouched at first glance, until I opened the refrigerator. Half empty. Grandma's handwritten grocery list missing from the magnet clip. Cookie tin gone from above the cabinets. The antique tea set she only used when somebody had bad news. Gone. My stomach dropped a little lower. Mom. She didn't turn around. Where's Grandma's tea set? Packed. For what? Storage. Short answers. Efficient answers. The kind designed to shut down questions before they grow teeth. I watched her move through the dining room, making little notes on her clipboard. Furniture. Boxes. Labels. She wasn't grieving. She was managing. And suddenly I remembered something Grandma Rose told me 3 years earlier while we were shelling peas on her porch. Pay attention to how people behave when they think nobody can stop them. At the time, I thought she was talking about politics. Now, I wasn't so sure. By noon, the family started arriving. My Aunt Denise. 2 cousins. My mother's church friend Sandra, who nobody invited but somehow always appeared around moments involving casseroles, gossip, or potential inheritances. The atmosphere felt weirdly upbeat. Too upbeat. People were sorting drawers, opening cabinets, making piles. Donation. Keep. Trash. I stood frozen near the living room doorway, watching strangers handle pieces of my grandmother's life like yard sale leftovers. Then I saw it. Grandma's jewelry chest. Open. Empty. My heartbeat stumbled. That jewelry chest had sat on Grandma's dresser since before I was born. Inside were family pieces she talked about like living relatives. The sapphire ring from her grandmother. Granddad's military watch. The pearl earrings she promised me when I turned 16. I crossed the room fast. Where is it? Nobody answered. I looked directly at my mother. The jewelry. She barely glanced up from her paperwork. Safe. Where? With me. Just like that. Simple. Closed case. I felt heat rise under my skin. With you? She wanted me to handle important items. Did she? My mother finally looked up. And there it was. That expression, cool, measured, slightly annoyed. Like I was creating inconvenience during business hours. Yes, Tara, she did. The room got quiet. Family members suddenly became very interested in cardboard boxes. Nobody wanted the front row seat. Nobody ever did when conflict involved my mother. Because my mother had a talent. She could make you question your own memory while standing inside your own pain. Funny, I said slowly, because Grandma told me those pearl earrings were mine. My mother gave a tiny laugh. Not cruel. Worse. Dismissive. Honey, people say sentimental things. Sentimental things. That's what she called promises now. I looked around the room. Nobody defended me. Not Aunt Denise. Not my cousins. Not one person. Grief does something ugly to families. It teaches you exactly who values peace more than truth. I walked upstairs because if I stayed downstairs another minute, I was going to explode. Grandma's bedroom door was half open. I pushed it gently and stopped cold. The room had been stripped. Not completely, but enough. Closet half empty. Dresser drawers opened. Boxes stacked near the wall. And the velvet blanket Grandma kept folded across the foot of her bed. Gone. Someone had started dismantling her existence before the funeral flowers were even dead. I sat down slowly on the mattress. That's when I noticed something tucked beneath the nightstand. A folded envelope. Dusty around the edges, almost hidden. My name written across the front. Tara. My chest tightened. I grabbed it fast. Before I could open it, footsteps. I slid the envelope into my jacket pocket just as my mother appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" Her voice was sharp now. No softness left. I stood up. Nothing. Her eyes moved across the room, scanning, calculating, looking for something, and for the first time, a thought crossed my mind so ugly I almost rejected it. What if she wasn't just organizing? What if she was searching? Searching for something she believed Grandma left behind. Something important. Something she hadn't found yet. My mother stared at me a second too long. Then she said quietly, "Be careful, Tara." Not comforting. Not loving. A warning. I didn't open the envelope until midnight. Alone in my apartment. Hands shaking. Because something deep inside me already knew. Whatever was inside that paper was going to change everything. And when I unfolded the letter, the very first sentence made my blood run cold. "If you're reading this, your mother started too early." I read the first line 3 times before my brain fully caught up. "If you're reading this, your mother started too early." Too early. Not if something happened. Not if you're grieving. Too early. Like Grandma Rose had expected a timeline. Like she had been watching a countdown nobody else could see. My hands tightened around the paper. The letter was handwritten. Her handwriting. Sharp loops, firm pressure, clean margins. Grandma wrote the way she lived. Organized enough to survive chaos. I kept reading. "Tara, if you found this where I left it, then certain people are moving faster than they should. Don't panic. Pay attention. Those are 2 different skills, and you were always better at the second one." My apartment suddenly felt colder. I pulled a blanket tighter around my shoulders even though it wasn't cold outside. The clock beside my couch read 12:43 a.m. Everyone else was probably sleeping. Or pretending to. I kept reading. There are things in this family people mistake for love. Control dressed up as sacrifice. Possession disguised as responsibility. Learn the difference. My stomach dropped. Because Grandma didn't write vaguely. She wasn't poetic for fun. If she said something, she meant something. Always. The next paragraph was shorter. Short enough to hurt. "You need to look inside the blue recipe box in my kitchen. Not the one people know about. The other one." That was it. No explanation. No dramatic reveal. Just instructions. Classic Grandma. Drop a grenade. Offer no map. I stared at the wall for a long time. The blue recipe box? Grandma had one recipe box on the kitchen counter my entire life. Everyone knew it. Old recipe cards. Cookie stains. Handwritten measurements. Nothing secret about it. Unless the other one. I checked the clock again. 1:12 a.m. I should have waited until morning. I should have slept. Thought clearly. Acted rationally. Instead, I grabbed my car keys. Because grief doesn't make you rational. And curiosity mixed with fear is basically gasoline. Grandma's house looked different at night. Smaller. Hollow. The porch light was off. Dark windows staring back at me. For a second, I almost turned around. Then I remembered my mother wearing Grandma's cardigan. That did it. I walked to the side entrance. The old kitchen door. The one Grandma always forgot to deadbolt. My key still worked there. Barely. The lock clicked. I slipped inside quietly. The house smelled wrong now. Less like cinnamon and old books. More like cardboard. Dust. Change. Moonlight spilled across the kitchen tiles. Everything looked untouched. Until you actually looked. Cabinets partly emptied. Counter space unusually clean. That weird sterile emptiness people mistake for organized. I moved straight toward the recipe station near the coffee maker. One recipe box. Exactly where it always sat. Red floral design. Not blue. I opened drawers. Nothing. Cabinets. Nothing. Pantry shelf. Nothing. My pulse started climbing. The other one? I crouched near the lower cupboards. Nothing. Checked above the refrigerator. Nothing. I was beginning to think grief had turned me into a midnight scavenger hunt contestant when I noticed something strange. A faint blue corner, wedged behind stacked baking trays inside the bottom warming drawer under the oven. Who keeps a recipe box under an oven? Grandma Rose. Apparently, I pulled it out carefully. Blue metal. Scratched edges. Old. Heavy. My breathing slowed. This was it. I opened the lid. Recipe cards. Dozens of them. At first glance, they're completely normal. Cornbread. Lemon pie. Pot roast. Chicken soup. I almost laughed. Seriously? I broke into a dead woman's house for casserole instructions? Then I noticed one recipe card thicker than the others. Folded. Taped underneath. I peeled it loose carefully. Not a recipe. A note. Only 6 words. Check the cedar chest bedroom closet. My heart started pounding again. You've got to be kidding me. Another clue. Grandma had turned death into a scavenger hunt. I moved toward the staircase quietly. Each step groaned beneath my feet. The house suddenly sounded too loud. Too aware. Grandma's bedroom door was open exactly how I left it. Moonlight spilled across half-packed boxes. The closet stood partially emptied. Inside sat the cedar chest. Heavy. Old-fashioned. Familiar. I opened it slowly. Blankets. Quilts. Winter linens. Nothing unusual. I started digging. Bottom layer. Folded sheets. Old sweater. Storage bag. Then, an envelope taped underneath the lid. My chest tightened. I pulled it free. Different handwriting. Not Grandma's. Legal letterhead. An attorney's office. My pulse kicked hard. I opened it. Inside was a photocopied document. Partial pages. Highlighted sections. Dates. Trust language. Asset references. Most of it didn't make immediate sense. But one phrase stood out instantly. Private holdings, excluded from primary estate inventory. Excluded. Primary estate. Inventory. I read the sentence again slower. Then faster. Then slower. Because suddenly, something terrifying clicked into place. If Grandma had assets outside the estate, then everything happening downstairs after the funeral. The sorting. The rushing. The inventory lists. My mother's obsession with control. Maybe she wasn't just grieving differently. Maybe she was looking for paperwork. Proof. Information. Something she expected to find inside the house. A sound snapped through the silence downstairs. A door closing. I froze. Not imagined. Real. Someone was inside. My blood went cold. It was after 2 a.m. Nobody should be here. I killed my phone flashlight instantly. Silence. Then, footsteps. Slow. Measured. Downstairs. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. I moved toward the bedroom doorway carefully. Listened. Cabinet door opening. Kitchen noises? Not random. Purposeful. Searching. Exactly like someone who knew the layout. Exactly like someone who believed something valuable was still hidden inside this house. Another footstep. Closer now. On the stairs? Oh, hell no. I backed into the bedroom shadows instinctively. The hallway creaked. 1 step. 2. 3. My mouth went dry. Then I heard it. A voice. Low. Annoyed. Whispering to itself. My mother. She was here. At 2 a.m., inside her dead mother's house. Digging through rooms in the dark. Not mourning. Searching. The realization hit so hard I almost felt dizzy. Because suddenly Grandma's letter didn't sound paranoid anymore. It sounded prepared. My mother entered the hallway carrying a flashlight. Moving room to room. Methodical. Focused. I held my breath. She paused outside Grandma's bedroom door. Too close. Way too close. If she stepped inside, she'd see me. And maybe the document's still in my hand. The silence stretched. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then, her phone rang downstairs. Sharp. Unexpected. She muttered something under her breath and turned back toward the staircase. I stayed frozen until I heard her answer quietly from the kitchen. Only fragments floated upward. No, haven't found it. She wouldn't have... Found what? My pulse roared in my ears. She wouldn't have what? I looked down at the document again. The highlighted sections, the missing pages, the hidden notes. And for the first time, I realized something much worse than inheritance drama might be happening. Because somebody else knew enough to call my mother at 2 a.m., and whatever they were looking for, they believed it was still hidden inside this house. I didn't leave immediately. I should have. But then I noticed something handwritten across the bottom corner of the document. words so small I almost missed them. And once I read them, I understood exactly why my mother was tearing that house apart. Box 1147 bank records do not let Linda access. I didn't sleep. Not even a minute. I sat in my car 3 blocks away from Grandma's house, watching the sky turn from black to gray, rereading the words scribbled at the bottom of that document. Box 1147 bank records do not let Linda access. Linda? My mother. Grandma didn't write your mother. She wrote Linda. Cold, specific, intentional. Like this wasn't family anymore. This was paperwork. Damage control. Containment. By 8:15 a.m., I was standing outside Harrison Federal Savings Bank, clutching a folder full of copied documents and a coffee I hadn't touched. The bank sat on the older side of town. Dark brick building. Too quiet. Too serious. The kind of place that looked like secrets aged well inside it. The receptionist smiled politely. How can I help you? I slid the document across the counter. I need information on safe deposit box 1147. She barely glanced down. Then her expression changed. Professional. Careful. Do you have authorization? No. Then I'm sorry, ma'am. I pulled out the highlighted legal papers from Grandma's cedar chest. Maybe look again. She studied them longer this time. Her eyes flicked toward her computer, then back at me. Please have a seat. Those 4 words made my pulse spike. People only say please have a seat when something is either very good or very bad. 10 minutes later, a gray-haired branch manager appeared. Measured smile. Lawyer energy. He introduced himself and led me into a private office. No small talk. No coffee offer. Just business. He reviewed the documents carefully. Slowly. Twice. Then he removed his glasses. Ms. Mitchell, your grandmother prepared contingency instructions. Contingency instructions? My mouth went dry. What does that mean? It means she anticipated a dispute. I stared at him. The room suddenly felt smaller. He opened a secure folder from his desk drawer. Inside was paperwork dated across multiple years. 1999, 2000, 2001. Updates. Revisions. Preparation layered over preparation. Grandma had been building something quietly for decades. The manager slid one paper toward me. According to these records, if Eleanor Mitchell passed away and specific concerns regarding estate interference arose, access authority transferred to you. My heart slammed. What concerns? He hesitated. Professionals hate family drama. Unfortunately for him, he was sitting inside one. He turned the page. There it was. Grandma's signature. Clear as day. Beneath it, a single type statement. If my daughter Linda attempts immediate asset consolidation, property removal, or document control following my death, release protected materials to Tara Mitchell. I stopped breathing for a second. Immediate asset consolidation. Property removal. Document control. My mother's entire week. Predicted. Cataloged. Prepared for. Grandma saw it coming. Years ago, the manager stood. I believe you should see the contents of box 1147. The vault corridor felt colder than the rest of the building. Heavy doors. Muted footsteps. Too much silence. The manager retrieved a long metal safe deposit box and placed it inside a private viewing room. Then he left. Just me, the box, and 20 years of whatever Grandma had hidden from everyone. My hands shook opening it. Inside were 3 things. 1 sealed envelope. 1 flash drive. 1 thick legal binder. I reached for the envelope first. Of course I did. Because grief makes you chase voices. Grandma's handwriting covered the front. For Tara, if this became necessary. I opened it carefully. The letter inside was short. Painfully short. Tara. If you're reading this, then I was right about the timing. Listen carefully. Your mother loves control more than uncertainty. When she feels uncertainty coming, she speeds up. That is not evil. It is fear wearing expensive shoes. But fear still breaks things. Do not fight emotionally. Fight factually. Everything you need is in this box. I loved your mother. Loving someone does not require trusting them with everything. You'll understand that better when you're older. I love you. Finish what I started. Grandma. I wiped my eyes hard. No dramatic sobbing. Just that sharp, quiet pain grief gives you when someone sounds painfully alive on paper. I opened the binder. Property records, investment accounts, trust agreements. itemized heirloom inventories, photographs, appraisal reports, dates, serial numbers, receipts. Grandma documented everything. Everything. And then I found it. A section labeled, Removed Items, Pre-Authorized Distribution Violation Review. My stomach dropped. Inside were photographs of valuables, jewelry, silverware, antique clocks, china, with handwritten notes. Not authorized for early removal. I felt sick. Because I recognized half the items. Items my mother claimed Grandma wanted her to have. No, Grandma specifically documented them against unauthorized transfer. Then I plugged in the flash drive. The bankroom computer loaded a single folder. Personal recordings, audio files, dozens, dated conversations, attorney meetings, inventory updates, voice memos. I clicked the most recent one. Grandma's voice filled the room, thin with age, sharp with clarity. My throat tightened instantly. Recording for legal documentation purposes, paper shuffling. Attorney voices, then Grandma again. If Linda begins removing household contents before probate review, that confirms the concern remains active. Concern remains active. Like this wasn't new behavior. Like this pattern had history. Then came the line that broke me. Not because it was cruel. Because it was tired. Deeply tired. Grandma sighed softly and said, I'm too old to keep pretending chaos is generosity. Silence. I covered my mouth. Because suddenly decades of family dynamics rearranged themselves in my head. My mother wasn't misunderstood. She wasn't just strong. Grandma had been managing fallout quietly for years, protecting everyone from explosions nobody else admitted existed. And she'd finally gotten tired. My phone buzzed violently across the table. Mom, of course. 3 missed calls. 4th incoming. I answered. Silence. Then her voice. Tight. Controlled. Dangerously controlled. Where are you? Straight to the point. No hello? Where are you? I looked at the safe deposit box. The documents. The proof. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of her reaction. At the bank. Silence. Long silence. Too long. Then, what bank? There it was. Not confusion. Recognition. I leaned back slowly. Interesting question. Her breathing changed. Tiny shift. But enough. You went through my mother's things. Your mother's things. Not our families. Not Mom's belongings. Possession language. Always, I said quietly. No, I followed Grandma's instructions. Dead silence. Then, what instructions? I almost laughed. Because suddenly the entire truth stood naked between us. She didn't know. After all that searching, she still didn't know. Grandma planned for this, I said. Tara, she planned for you. That landed. Hard. The silence on the line felt electric. When my mother finally spoke again, the calm mask cracked. What exactly did she tell you? Wrong question. Guilty question. I closed the binder. She told me enough. My mother exhaled sharply. You think you understand something you don't. No, I said quietly. I think Grandma understood something I didn't. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Then her voice softened unexpectedly. Almost sad. Tara, families get messy after death. Maybe. True. But not this messy. Not 2 a.m. flashlight search inside a dead woman's house messy. Not change the locks before the flowers die messy. I stood slowly inside that little bank room surrounded by decades of hidden preparation. And I realized something important. This story wasn't about money. It never really was. It was about being seen. Grandma saw me. She saw my mother. She saw the pattern. And she refused to leave truth undefended. I took a breath. Mom. What? The pearl earrings? Silence. Too fast. Too sharp. What about them? Grandma documented them. No response. Gotcha. Small. Silent. Complete. I closed my eyes briefly. Not victory. Just clarity. You should stop searching the house. Her breathing changed again. How much do you know? Everything. Enough. More than enough. But I only said, enough to stop doubting myself. That was the moment the power shifted. Not loudly. Quietly. Completely. She didn't yell. Didn't threaten. Didn't deny. She just went silent. Because truth has weight, and sometimes silence is the sound it makes when it lands. 3 months later, the estate lawyers finalized everything. Properly, legally, cleanly. Some items were returned. Some weren't. Families don't always end with courtroom speeches and perfect healing. Real life is messier than that. My mother and I still speak. Carefully, cautiously. Different now. Because once somebody shows you the blueprint beneath their behavior, you can't unknow it. The pearl earrings sit in a small velvet box on my dresser. Not because of their value, because of what they cost to understand. People think inheritances are about money. Sometimes they are. But the real inheritance, the real one, is clarity. The moment you stop confusing love with surrender. The moment you realize protecting yourself does not make you cruel. And the moment you understand that the quietest person in the room may have been keeping the entire family standing. Grandma knew that. Turns out, she made sure I would too.